The Imperial dreadnought hung in the black sky above Earth like a mountain made of metal and malice. It was called the Void's Dominion, and it belonged to Empress of the Empire. The ship was so large that people on the ground could see it during the day, a dark spot against the blue sky that reminded everyone on the planet that they were very, very small. They had arrived 3 weeks ago. They came with 12 warships, each one capable of burning a continent to ash. They said they came in peace. They said they wanted to talk, but everyone knew the truth. They did not ask. They took. They had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy, and now they had found Earth. Empress was not like anything humans had ever seen. She stood 7 feet tall, covered in scales that shifted color with her mood. A crest of bioluminescent flesh rose from her head, glowing soft blue when she was calm and burning red when she was angry. Her eyes were gold with vertical pupils like a snake. Her claws could cut through steel. She moved like a predator because that is exactly what she was. The humans sent their best diplomats to meet her. Ambassador was a patient woman who had spent 30 years negotiating with difficult people. She smiled and spoke softly and tried very hard not to show her fear. The Empress watched her like a cat watches a mouse, amused but not impressed. The negotiations happened on Unity Station, a human-built platform that floated between Earth and the fleet. It was neutral ground, or at least that was the idea. Nothing felt neutral when the Empress walked through the corridors, her guards following like shadows with weapons that could melt walls. But the Empress had not come alone. She had brought something precious, something rare. In a special chamber deep within the Void's dominion, protected by the best warriors in the Empire, 3 small creatures slept in a heated nest. They were the Empress's hatchlings, her children born only 6 months ago. They did not have children often, once per century if they were lucky. These 3 hatchlings were worth more than planets. They were worth more than the entire fleet. They were everything. The Empress had brought them because she did not trust anyone else to protect them. She was their mother and she would keep them close. 20 guards stood watch at all times. Sensors covered every inch of the nursery. Nothing could get in. Nothing could get out. On the 15th day of negotiations, everything changed. The Empress was sitting across from Ambassador, discussing trade routes and territorial boundaries, when an alarm screamed through her communicator. The sound was high and sharp, a sound that every knew and feared. It was the nursery alarm. The Empress moved so fast that human eyes could barely follow. One moment she was sitting in her chair. The next moment she was running through the corridors of Unity Station, her guards struggling to keep up. Her claws clicked against the metal floor like gunshots. Her crest was blazing red, brighter than anyone had ever seen. She reached the shuttle bay. She flew back to her ship. She ran to the nursery. The door was open. The guards were unconscious on the floor, still breathing but deeply asleep. Some kind of gas, the security chief said. Something in the air vents. They never saw it coming. The heated nest was empty. The hatchlings were gone. The Empress stood very still for a long moment. Her scales had turned dark, almost black. Her crest flickered between red and purple, colors that her people had not seen in generations. Then she opened her mouth and released a sound that was not quite a scream and not quite a roar. It was something older and more terrible, a sound that came from deep in her chest and shook the walls of the ship. Every on the vessel dropped to their knees. Even the bravest warriors covered their ears. The Empress was not just angry. She was broken. Her children, her precious, irreplaceable children, were missing. Ambassador received the message 30 minutes later. She read it 3 times because she could not believe the words. The Empress gave humanity 12 hours. 12 hours to return her offspring. If the hatchlings were not found, healthy and unharmed, the fleet would open fire. Every city on Earth would burn. Every human being would die. There would be no negotiation. There would be no mercy. The ambassador's hands shook as she contacted Earth's leaders. Emergency meetings began within minutes. Every intelligence agency, every military force, Every scientist and expert was called into action. Find the hatchlings. Find them now. But no one knew where to look. The nursery sensors showed nothing. The ship's cameras showed nothing. It was as if the hatchlings had simply disappeared, vanished into thin air. Some people whispered about human terrorists, about secret attacks, about acts of war. But the truth was simpler and stranger. No one had taken the hatchlings. The hatchlings had left on their own. They were curious creatures, as all bobbies are. They had smelled something interesting in the air vent, something warm and alive. They had pushed against the grate until it fell. They had crawled into the darkness, following their instincts, following the warmth. The gas that knocked out the guards was not an attack. It was a malfunction, a coincidence, a terrible accident of timing. The cleaning systems had released a chemical that was harmless to adults but made them sleepy. The guards dozed off for just 10 minutes. That was enough. Now 3 tiny creatures, each no bigger than a house cat, were crawling through the maintenance tunnels that connected the Void's dominion to Unity Station. They did not know they were causing a crisis. They did not know their mother was threatening genocide. They only knew that they were cold and scared and looking for warmth. On Unity Station, a junior logistics officer named Maya Torres was finishing her night shift. She was tired and thinking about sleep when she noticed something strange on her maintenance camera feed. Movement in Section 7, a forgotten storage area that no one ever visited. Maya frowned at the screen. Probably just a rat, she thought. The station had rats sometimes, stowaways from supply ships. She should report it and go to bed. But something made her stand up. Something made her grab a flashlight and walk toward the lower decks. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else, something she could not name. Above her, the countdown continued. 11 hours and 43 minutes until the end of the world. Maya Torres walked into the darkness, not knowing that she was walking toward the most important moment in human history. Maya Torres was not a special person. She was not a soldier or a scientist or a diplomat. She was 32 years old and she worked in logistics, which meant she spent most of her time counting boxes and making sure supplies went to the right places. She had brown hair that she kept in a messy ponytail, and she wore the same gray jumpsuit as everyone else on the station. Back on Earth, Maya had lived in a small apartment with 2 rescue cats and a 3-legged dog she had found behind a grocery store. She was the kind of person who left food out for stray animals, who stopped her car to help turtles cross the road, who cried at sad commercials about homeless puppies. Her friends called her soft. Her mother called her too kind for her own good. None of that seemed important right now. What seemed important was the strange sound coming from behind the storage containers in Section 7. Maya moved slowly, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. This part of the station was old and forgotten. The lights had stopped working years ago, and no one had bothered to fix them. Dust covered everything. The air was cold, much colder than the rest of the station, because the heating systems had been shut off to save power. The sound came again. It was soft, almost like a whimper, like something small and scared. Maya stepped around a stack of old equipment and stopped. 3 small creatures huddled in the corner. They were curled together in a tight ball, shaking so hard that Maya could see their scales vibrating. Their skin was gray and dull, not the bright colors she had seen on the diplomats. Their eyes were huge and wet, reflecting her flashlight like mirrors. Maya's heart stopped. She knew what these were. Everyone on the station knew. The Empress's children, the hatchlings that had disappeared, the reason the world was about to end. For one moment, Maya thought about running. She should call security. She should contact the diplomats. She should do anything except stand here alone with 3 alien bobbies. But then one of the hatchlings made a sound. It was small and broken, a cry of fear and cold. It sounded exactly like a kitten Maya had once found in a winter storm, half frozen and barely alive. Maya's body moved before her brain could stop it. She knelt down, setting her flashlight on the ground. The hatchlings flinched away from her, pressing harder against the wall. Up close, she could see how bad they looked. Their scales were flacking. Their crests were dark and limp. They were dying. The cold was killing them. "Hey," Maya said softly. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The hatchlings did not understand her words, but they understood her voice. It was gentle. It was warm. It was not a threat. Maya tried her communicator. Static. The old Section 7 had terrible reception, and the emergency channels were probably overloaded with everyone panicking about the deadline. She could run to get help, but by the time she came back, these bobbies might be dead. She made a decision. Maya unzipped her jumpsuit to her waist. The cold hit her skin immediately, making her gasp. She was wearing only a thin tank top underneath. Steam rose from her body into the freezing air. Slowly, carefully, she reached toward the nearest hatchling. It hissed at her, a weak sound with no real threat behind it. Its small claws scratched at her hand, but they were too weak to break skin. "I know," Maya whispered. "I know you're scared, but you're cold and I'm warm, and I'm going to help you whether you like it or not." She picked up the first hatchling and pressed it against her chest, directly over her heart. The creature went rigid with shock. Then slowly it relaxed. Its scales, which had been icy to the touch, began to warm against her skin. Its shivering slowed. Its eyes, which had been wild with fear, started to close. Maya picked up the second hatchling, then the third. She tucked all three against her body and wrapped her jumpsuit around them as best she could. They were small enough to fit in the space between her breasts and her stomach, three little bundles of alien life pressed against her human warmth. Her body temperature was 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. To the hatchlings, she was like a living sun. The change was immediate. The bobbies stopped shaking. Their scales began to brighten, shifting from gray to soft green and blue. Their crests lifted slightly, showing the faintest glow of bioluminescence. They made small sounds against her skin, not cries anymore, but something else. Something content. Then one by one, they fell asleep. Maya sat in the darkness with three alien children sleeping on her chest. She could feel their tiny heartbeats, fast and light, synchronizing with her own slower rhythm. Their breath was warm against her neck. One of them had wrapped its small, clawed hand around her finger and would not let go. She should move. She should call for help. She should do something. But Maya had held enough scared animals to know that you did not disturb them when they finally felt safe. You sat still. You let them sleep. You gave them warmth and peace for as long as they needed. So Maya sat and waited and held them close. She did not know how much time passed, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. She was starting to doze off herself when she heard footsteps, heavy footsteps, many of them. Then the door exploded inward. Warriors poured into the room, their weapons raised, their crests blazing red. They were massive, terrifying, built for killing. They spread out in perfect formation, covering every angle, ready to destroy any threat. They saw Maya sitting on the floor. They saw what she held against her chest. They stopped. For a long moment, no one moved. The warriors stared at the human woman with their future empress's children pressed against her bare skin. The hatchlings stirred slightly at the noise but did not wake. They were too warm, too comfortable, too safe. The lead warrior stepped forward. His weapon was still raised, pointed at Maya's head. His finger was on the trigger. Maya looked up at him. She was terrified, more afraid than she had ever been in her life. But she did not move. She did not run. She did not try to surrender the hatchlings. "They were cold," she said quietly. "They were scared and cold, and I warmed them up. That's all." The warrior's crest flickered. He did not lower his weapon. Behind him, Maya heard more footsteps, different footsteps, slower and heavier with the click of massive claws. The warriors parted like water. Empress walked into the room, and Maya Tors looked into the eyes of the most powerful being in the known galaxy. The Empress's gaze moved from Maya's face to the sleeping hatchlings on her chest. Her crest, which had been burning red, slowly shifted, first to orange, then to yellow, then to something Maya could not identify, a color she had never seen before on any. The hatchlings chirped in their sleep, nuzzling deeper against Maya's heartbeat. The Empress stood very still. And Maya waited, holding her breath, holding the bobbies, holding the fate of Earth against her skin. Empress had killed many beings in her long life. She had torn enemies apart with her claws. She had ordered the destruction of worlds. She had watched species beg for mercy and given them none. Fear was a tool she used, and she used it well. But looking at this small human woman, holding her children against her chest, the Empress felt something she had not felt in centuries. She did not know what to call it. The lead warrior spoke without lowering his weapon. "Your Majesty, we found them with this human. She may be part of the kidnapping plot. We should." "Be silent," the Empress said. The warrior went silent, stepped closer to Maya. Each step was slow and careful, like a predator approaching something it did not understand. Her golden eyes studied everything. The way the hatchlings were positioned, the warmth rising from the human skin, the tiny clawed hand wrapped around Maya's finger. The Empress knew what she was seeing. She just could not believe it. "They have bonded with you," she said. Her voice was deep and cold, but there was something else in it now. Something almost like wonder. Maya did not know what that meant. They were cold. I tried to warm them up." "Hatchlings bond through warmth and heartbeat," the Empress said. "In the first year of life, they connect to the source of heat that keeps them alive. Usually this is the mother, the incubation chambers, other members of the family." She paused. "Never an alien, never a human." Maya looked down at the sleeping bobbies. They had not moved since the Empress arrived. They were completely at peace, their small bodies rising and falling with Maya's breath. One of them made a soft chirping sound, like a bird dreaming of flight. "I didn't know," Maya said. I found them. They were dying. I couldn't just leave them." The Empress's crest flickered again. "You could have. Any other species would have. They would have seen 3 children of their enemy and left them to freeze, or killed them, or used them as leverage." "They're bobbies," Maya said. Her voice was stronger now, even though she was still terrified. "I don't care whose bobbies they are. They were cold and scared and alone. I wasn't going to let them die." For a long moment the Empress said nothing. Her warriors stood frozen, weapons still raised, waiting for an order that did not come. Then did something that shocked everyone in the room, including herself. She knelt down. The Empress of the Empire, ruler of 100 worlds, conqueror of countless species, lowered herself to the ground until she was at eye level with Maya Tors. Her massive form still dwarfed the human, but the gesture was clear. She was not attacking. She was not threatening. She was trying to understand. "Why?" the Empress asked. It was not an accusation. It was a genuine question asked with something almost like desperation. "Why did you help them? You knew what I was going to do. You knew I was going to destroy your world. Why would you save my children?" Maya thought about the question. She thought about her cats at home, her 3-legged dog, the turtle she had helped cross the road last summer. She thought about every stray animal she had ever fed, every hurt creature she had ever bandaged, every lost thing she had ever found and tried to return. "Because that's what humans do," she said finally. "We see something small and helpless and we want to protect it. We can't help it. It's just who we are." The Empress stared at her. In all her years of conquest, she had studied many species. She had learned their weaknesses, their fears, their breaking points. She had used that knowledge to destroy them. But she had never seen this strange, irrational instinct to protect, to nurture, to care for something that was not your own, even at the cost of your own life. "You are a strange species," the Empress said slowly. "Yeah," Maya agreed. "We get that a lot." One of the hatchlings stirred. It opened its eyes, those huge golden mirrors, and saw its mother kneeling nearby. For a moment, Maya expected it to leap toward the Empress, to rush to its real parent. Instead, the hatchling looked at its mother, then looked at Maya, then chirped softly and pressed closer against Maya's chest. The Empress's crest went through a series of colors that Maya could not read. Was it anger, sadness, something else entirely? "She has imprinted on you," the Empress said. Her voice was quiet. "They all have. When a hatchling bonds, it is not easily broken. You have become part of them." Maya felt the tiny heartbeats against her skin. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to." "Do not apologize." The Empress stood, rising to her full height. She looked down at Maya with an expression that was impossible to read. "You saved their lives. I came here ready to kill your entire species, and you saved my children because they were cold." The warriors shifted nervously. No one knew what was happening. No one had ever seen the Empress like this. "What will you do?" Maya asked. She was thinking about Earth, about her friends and family back home, about the billions of people who were still waiting, still afraid, still watching the clock count down to their deaths. The Empress was silent for a long time. "I have ruled the Empire for 300 years, she said finally. "I have conquered because I feared. I feared for my people, for my children, for our future. I trusted no one because no one had ever given me a reason to trust." She looked at Maya again, really looked at her. "And then a human woman, small and weak and utterly powerless, found my children dying in the darkness. And she did not run. She did not call for weapons. She did not try to bargain or threaten or scheme." The Empress's crest shifted to a color Maya had never seen before. It was soft and warm, like sunlight through amber. She held them against her heart and kept them alive. The room was completely silent. "I do not understand your species," the Empress said. "I do not understand how you can be so foolish, so reckless, so impossibly kind. But I think," she paused as if the words were difficult to speak, "I think I would like to learn." She turned to her warriors. "Lower your weapons, contact the fleet, the deadline is cancelled." The warriors obeyed instantly, but Maya could see the shock on their faces. The Empress had never backed down from a threat. Never. Looked at Maya one more time. "You will come with me," she said. "My children will need you near them while the bond settles, and she hesitated. "I have questions, many questions about your people." Maya looked down at the hatchlings, still sleeping peacefully against her chest. She looked up at the most powerful being in the galaxy. She thought about everything that had just happened and everything that was about to happen. "Okay," she said simply, "but someone needs to feed my cats." The Empress blinked. It was such a small human concern, so ordinary, so utterly disconnected from galactic politics and imperial threats. For the first time in 3 centuries, Empress of the Empire laughed. It was a strange sound, rough and unused, but it was real. And in that moment, something shifted between two species that had almost become enemies. Something new was beginning. The Empress's private chambers were not what Maya had expected. She had imagined cold metal and harsh lights, something military and hard. Instead, she found soft fabrics and warm colors. Plants grew along the walls, alien flowers that glowed softly in the dim light. A pool of heated water steamed gently in one corner. It felt almost like a home. Maya sat on a large cushion, her back against a warm surface that hummed with gentle heat. The 3 hatchlings were spread around her. 2 of them slept against her sides, their scales now bright and healthy. The third, the smallest one, had climbed into her lap and refused to move. It looked up at her with huge golden eyes every few minutes, as if checking that she was still there. The Empress sat across from her, massive and strange, but somehow less frightening than before. She had removed her ceremonial armor and wore simple robes. Her crest glowed a calm blue. Between them, a tray of food sat untouched. Maya had tried some of it, strange fruits and cooked meats that tasted like nothing on Earth. The Empress had not eaten at all. She just watched Maya with those ancient golden eyes. "Tell me about humans," the Empress said. "Tell me why you are the way you are." Maya thought about how to explain. How do you describe your own species to someone who has never known anything like you? "We evolved on Earth," she began. "A planet with seasons, with winters cold enough to kill and summers hot enough to burn. We were not the strongest animals. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or scales or venom." "Then how did you survive?" the Empress asked. "We worked together." Maya stroked the head of the hatchling in her lap without thinking about it. The small creature made a sound of pure contentment. "Humans are pack animals. We survive because we take care of each other. One human alone is weak. A group of humans can do anything." The Empress tilted her head. "They also work together. We have armies, fleets, organizations, but we do not." She struggled for the word. "We do not bond as you do, not with strangers, not with other species." "That's the weird part about humans," Maya said. "We bond with everything. Dogs, cats, horses, animals that should be our prey or our predators. We see something with eyes and we want to be its friend." She looked down at the hatchling in her lap. "When I saw your children, I didn't think about them being alien. I didn't think about them being the children of my enemy. I just saw bobbies, cold, scared bobbies, and my brain said, protect them, keep them warm, make them safe." The Empress was quiet for a long moment. "On my world," she said slowly, "hatchlings are rare, precious. We guard them with everything we have, but that guarding has made us afraid. We trust no one with our children, we trust no one with our future, and so we conquer, we take, we destroy anything that might be a threat." "That sounds lonely," Maya said. The Empress's crest flickered. "It is. It has always been. I thought that was the price of survival. I thought there was no other way." The smallest hatchling made a chirping sound and reached up toward Maya's face. Without thinking, she leaned down and let it touch her cheek with its tiny clawed hand. The gesture was so gentle, so trusting, so unlike anything the Empress had ever seen from her own kind. "Human bobbies are helpless for years," Maya said. "They cannot walk, cannot feed themselves, cannot survive alone. For millions of years we survived because any adult would protect any child, not just their own children, any child. It's built into us. We cannot turn it off." She paused. "I think that's why we adopt everything. We see something small and helpless and that same instinct activates. We want to protect it. We want to nurture it. We want to love it." The Empress stared at her. "Even if it is dangerous, even if it could hurt you." Maya laughed softly. "We domesticated wolves, we made them our best friends. We keep snakes and spiders as pets. We swim with sharks. We see something dangerous and our first thought is, but could I pet it?" "That is insane." "Probably," Maya agreed. "But it works. We have spread across our world. We have built civilizations. And we have done it not by being the strongest but by being the most stubborn about making friends." The Empress rose from her seat and walked to a window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, her fleet waited. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. "In 300 years," she said quietly, "I have conquered 37 species. Some fought back. Some surrendered. Some begged for mercy. But none of them," she paused, "none of them ever offered to help." Maya stayed silent, sensing that the Empress needed to speak. "I came to your world ready for war. I expected fear. I expected resistance. I expected the same thing I had found everywhere else in the galaxy. Beings who saw my children as threats, as weapons, as things to be destroyed." She turned back to Maya. "Instead, I found a woman who held them against her heart because they were cold." The smallest hatchling chirped again. It had fallen asleep in Maya's lap, its tiny claws still gripping her finger. "I have been doing this wrong," the Empress said. The words seemed to cost her something. "For 300 years I have been doing this wrong. I conquered because I was afraid. I destroyed because I trusted nothing. And all that time, I never once thought to ask for help. Maya looked at the powerful being standing before her. For the first time, she did not see an empress or a conqueror. She saw a mother, a tired, afraid mother who had spent centuries fighting to protect her children in a galaxy that offered nothing but threats. "It's not too late," Maya said softly. "To try something different, I mean." The Empress's crest shifted through several colors. "Your people would never trust us. Not after what I threatened. Not after what my kind has done to so many others." "Maybe," Maya said. "Humans hold grudges. We remember when people hurt us. But we also," she thought about the right words, "we also really want to make friends. If you gave us a chance, if you showed us something different, we would try. That's what humans do. We keep trying." The Empress was silent for a long time. Then she asked a question that changed everything. "What would your people want in exchange for teaching mine how to trust?" Maya blinked. She had not expected that. She was a logistics officer. She counted boxes for a living. She was not qualified to negotiate on behalf of all humanity. But the hatchling in her lap chirped softly, and Maya thought about what really mattered. Not power, not territory, not revenge. "Start small," she said. "Don't try to fix everything at once. Just let us help. Let us meet your children. Let us show you what we are." The Empress considered this. "A small thing," she said, "to begin a large change." "That's how humans do it," Maya agreed. "One small thing at a time." The Empress looked at her children, sleeping peacefully against this strange, soft human. For 300 years, she had protected them with fear and force. Maybe it was time to try something else. "Very well," she said. "We will try your way." And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the future shifted. 6 months had passed since the night the world almost ended. Maya Torres stood on a balcony overlooking what used to be the Gobi Desert. Below her, green stretched to the horizon. Terraforming technology had transformed the dead sand into a garden, a place where two species were learning to live together. Human buildings stood next to domes. Children played in parks designed for both kinds of bodies. It was strange and beautiful and completely impossible. And it had all started because 3 bobbies got cold. Maya felt a familiar weight settle onto her shoulder. She turned her head to see the smallest hatchling, now much bigger than before, climbing up her back. It was the size of a medium dog now, but it still thought it was small enough to sit on her shoulder like it had that first night. "You're getting too heavy for this," Maya said. The hatchling made a sound that was definitely disagreement, and settled into place anyway. Behind her, the other 2 hatchlings were playing with Maya's cat, Mr. Whiskers. The old orange tabby had arrived from Earth 3 months ago, and he had immediately decided that the strange, scaly creatures were just ugly kittens. He groomed them. He taught them to hunt toys. He slept in a pile with them every night. The scientists could not explain it. Cats were supposed to be predators. They were supposed to see the hatchlings as threats or prey. Instead, Mr. Whiskers had adopted them as completely as Maya had. "Humans," one scientist had said, shaking her head. "Your entire species is contagious. Even your animals are like this." Maya had just shrugged. It was true. Humans made friends with everything. The door behind her opened, and Empress stepped onto the balcony. She moved differently now than she had 6 months ago. Softer, less like a predator stalking prey and more like someone just taking a walk. "The council meeting went well," the Empress said. She stood beside Maya and looked out at the green desert. "The trade agreement passed. Earth will receive terraforming technology for the Sahara. In exchange, human. What did you call them?" "Warmth specialists," Maya said. "Yes, warmth specialists will be stationed at our nurseries throughout the Empire." Maya smiled. It was still strange to hear. Professional human cuddlers traveling the galaxy to help alien bobbies survive. 2 years ago, it would have sounded like a joke. Now it was one of the most important jobs in known space. Hatchling mortality had dropped by 40% since the program started. It turned out that the bobbies did not just need warmth. They needed touch, contact, the feeling of being held and protected. Parents loved their children, but their culture had taught them to protect from a distance, to guard but not embrace. Humans did not have that limitation. Humans would hold anything. I received a message from the consortium of 12 today, the Empress said. Maya's smile faded. The consortium was an alliance of species that they had conquered centuries ago. They had been enemies for generations. They hated the Empire with a burning passion. What did they want? They want to know how we did it. The Empress's crest glowed with amusement. They watched us threaten to destroy Earth. They watched Earth prepare to fight back, and then they watched us become this. She gestured at the garden below, at the humans and working together, at the children playing in the parks. They are terrified, the Empress continued. Not of our weapons, not of our fleet. They are terrified of your species. They think you have some kind of mind control technology. They cannot understand how you turned the most feared empire in the galaxy into. What was the word? Softies. Maya laughed. She could not help it. What did you tell them? I told them the truth. I told them that a human woman found my children dying in the dark, and instead of using them as bargaining chips or weapons, she held them against her heart until they were warm again. The Empress paused. They did not believe me. Of course they didn't. They will learn, the Empress looked at Maya, as I did, as everyone does when they meet your kind. The hatchling on Maya's shoulder chirped at its mother. The Empress reached out and stroked its crest gently, a gesture of affection she never would have shown in public 6 months ago. You have changed us, the Empress said quietly. I'm not sure if that is a good thing or a bad thing. Maya thought about that. She thought about the fear that had driven them to conquer, the loneliness that had made them see enemies everywhere, the centuries of war and death and destruction, all because they never believed anyone would help them. Change is always scary, Maya said, but sometimes it's the only way to become something better. Below them, a human child ran past a group of warriors. 10 months ago, those warriors would have seen the child as prey, as a threat, as something to be controlled. Now, one of them bent down and helped the child tie her shoe. It was such a small thing, such a simple thing, but Maya had learned that small things were how the galaxy changed. That night, Maya sat in her quarters with the 3 hatchlings piled around her. Mr. Whiskers was curled up on top of the pile, purring loudly. The Empress had visited earlier, staying for dinner, asking questions about human customs and laughing at stories about Maya's childhood. It was strange. The most powerful being in the galaxy, eating pasta and asking about Earth holidays. But that was what humans did. They made strange things normal. They made enemies into friends. They turned conquests into conversations. The smallest hatchling stirred and looked up at Maya with those huge golden eyes. It made a sound that was almost like a word. Mama. Maya's heart stopped. Hatchlings did not speak until they were at least 2 years old, but this one was trying. This one was reaching for something. I'm here, Maya whispered. She did not know if she was the hatchling's mother. She did not know what she was anymore, but she knew one thing. I'm here, baby. I'll always be here. The hatchling chirped happily and snuggled closer. Outside Maya's window, the stars burned in the darkness. Somewhere out there, other species were watching. Other empires were wondering. Other civilizations were trying to understand how one small human woman had changed the course of galactic history. They would learn the truth eventually. They would learn that humans were not special because they were strong or smart or advanced. They were special because they could not stop caring. They saw something small and helpless and they had to protect it. They met something strange and different and they had to understand it. They found something cold and alone and they had to warm it. That was humanity's power. That was humanity's gift. And it was spreading across the galaxy, one hug at a time. In the pile of sleeping creatures, Mr. Whiskers opened one eye, looked at Maya, and purred even louder, as if to say, "This is good. This is how it should be. This is family." Maya smiled and closed her eyes. Tomorrow there would be more meetings, more negotiations, more challenges. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of beings who did not trust each other. Changing that would take years, maybe centuries. But humans were patient, humans were stubborn, and humans never gave up on making friends. The future was bright and warm, like a heartbeat in the darkness. Like a human holding alien children against her chest. Like the beginning of something beautiful.